It's a little bit of a tongue twister, but there's two main platforms. One of them is B Plus Player Radio. The other one is bodyslams.net. Bodyslam.net.
Flan, like
Slam,
F-L-A-N?
like a body slam. Yeah.
Oh, body slam.
Yeah, like bodyslam.net. You know?
Oh, I'm like phlegm. That's like the worst fucking thing I've ever heard of. Like,
no, it totally makes sense. It's a wrestling podcast, so bodyslam.net.
Yeah. I mean, I got you now. I'm like, I thought you were like Bobby Phlegm, and I'm like, who the fuck is that?
Who the fuck is Bobby? All right, but here it goes.
Okay.
All right, in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, this is Kid Osbourne. If you want to listen to more Shot of Wrestling, you can check them out at B Plus Player. Oh wait, I'm sorry, dude.
You know what? Everybody loses the radio. B Plus Player Radio.
Yeah, B Plus Player Radio. I got it.
And bodyslam.net.
And bodyslam.net.
Yeah.
All right.
Put yourself over at it too.
Okay.
Cool. In 3, 2, 1.
Are you ready?
This is the King of Prussia, Kid Osbourne. If you want to listen to the best interview ever, and I guess a couple others if you feel like it in the archive, you can check Shot of Wrestling out at B Plus Player Radio and bodyslam.net.
What is that the message you got? We about to go live. Are you ready to rock? So take a shot. What is that the message you got? From the fans to the fans, let me hear the crowd pop. So take a shot. What is that the message you got? We about to go live. Are you ready to rock? So take a shot. What is that the message you got? From the fans to the fans, let me hear the crowd pop. So take a shot. Oh yeah. So take a shot. Oh, so take a shot. Oh, so take a shot.
Family, welcome to another exciting edition of A Shot of Wrestling, the interviews. Now, if you have not done so already, follow us on all forms of social media at A Shot of Wrestling on Facebook and Instagram, and Shot of Wrestling No A on Twitter. You can also contact us via email at inbox@ashotofwrestling.com or dial it up 619-343-3005 and leave your comments on A Shot of Wrestling hotline. Now, if you're ready and willing, I'm able, so let's get this shit started. We say it time and time again that wrestling brings us together, and today is no different. Today, we are joined by Kid Osbourne. My man, welcome to A Shot of Wrestling.
Oh, man, I'm excited here.
So happy to have you. It's my pleasure, brother. You know, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff tonight, so I hope you're ready. Are you an open book?
I am an open book. Ask me anything. Ask away.
All right.
This has been a long time coming.
Well, let's start from the beginning. How did you get to where you are today to become a professional wrestler?
Well, I went to a wrestling show in 2007. My friend actually took me to a CZW show. I almost had no idea of what independent wrestling even was. Because I've been a fan, my whole life, but apparently not that good of a fan because I had no idea stuff like this existed. But we went to a wrestling show, and we kept going to the monthly at the arena, and they happened to advertise for their academy, which they were moving back to the 2300 arena.
Uh-huh.
And I just, a light bulb went off, and I had to do it. I went and I figured out who I needed to reach out to on MySpace. And
MySpace.
MySpace. I messaged them. He told me to come to the next show, get there early, and then we would do a tryout. And I went there. I tried out. I did more cardio, and Drew Gulak destroyed me before I ever even got a chance to get on the apron. Went in the ring, and they told me to do a back bump, which I did horribly, but just well enough. And then they had me do a flip bump. The first time I tried to do it, I thought I was going to break my neck because my legs were like jello. And then I guess I got through it. They said, all right, you passed. I guess. And then they said I can start, and I kind of just waited for like high school to kind of end, for the summer. And then I started going.
In high school, were you a good student, or were you like just like one of the cool kids?
I mean, I wouldn't say I had my foot in every clique. I would say that if I was prescribed Ritalin or Adderall, like I'd probably have a scholarship somewhere, but I didn't. So it was really hard for me to always pay attention. And I'll be honest, one of the things I was always and never grew out of was professional wrestling, and that's all I ever really cared about.
Once you started going to the school and you were taking this more seriously, what was your family thinking about this? Were they thinking about your safety at all?
I'm sure they were. My dad, he never was a fan of wrestling. I mean, that doesn't mean he did not like it. It was just something that he thought was kind of immature, childish, something I would grow out of. And I can understand that. But when I was in school and I would do bad, like grade school, we would always take it away. And I guess his thought was, oh, you'll just find something else. And I just never did. And then when it came into high school and my senior year, he was actually more supportive of it because he saw that it was something I was dedicated to. Whereas tried a lot of different things, and I guess he never thought of wrestling as anything. And then now he's kind of starting to open up more just because he saw like how passionate I was about it.
Yeah.
So he supported me, and he would actually give me like $20 every Thursday or every Monday or Thursday, whichever one I would go, because that's when they would do practice, to take the train, the subway, and then the bus to the 2300 Arena in South Philly. And I would train there, and I would have school in the morning, and that would suck ass.
Has he seen you in the ring? Has he seen you perform?
He's never come to one.
Really?
He's not really one that, I guess, would be a part of it. And I don't like holding it against him. He kind of does his own thing, but we talk all the time, and he's really proud of it. Where he likes, I think, to the point where he saw like that I kind of have a little bit of success, and he likes showing like all of his friends, and he's really vocal about it when I go out and stuff. So he's definitely proud of me, but he's not really one that want to go to it. I honestly think it's something he's just afraid to go to. That's really what I think. So I never push him, but I don't know. And actually, it's funny. Right now it's May 9th. Tomorrow is his birthday.
Really? Well.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Mr. Osbourne.
Yeah.
Ozzy. Ozzy's your dad, right?
No, Ozzy. It's his birthday. Don't look him up on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
It's going to have a different day. It's wrong.
I thought that's who we were talking about.
Yeah,
I'd be afraid too, though. I'm a father. I have a 2-year-old, and I think, I love playing wrestling with him, and I love, like, he gets so excited. Like, he puts me, like, literally a 2-year-old is putting me, like, in a scissors lock. Like, it's insane. Like, he's got so much strength. But as a father, I don't think I would want him to be a wrestler. Like, I'd be afraid of the things that you guys go through, like injuries, and it's not easy. Have you ever been injured before?
Yeah. The first time I ever got injured, besides pulled muscle here and there, the first time I ever really got injured was I broke my collarbone in a match in a match versus Nate Carter, one half of the rep, and it was nothing that he did. I took a heel off the top, and I landed fine, and I thought I did, and I just felt like this pop, and I thought maybe I caught my shoulder, but it was like the beginning of the match. I kept wrestling for it and through it, and then later I actually ended up breaking my wrist. So,
oh shit.
Yeah. It was just a bad match. It was a fine match, but the injury part of it was bad, but it wasn't anything I blame him on. It was just bad timing, to say the least, and that was it.
That must be very tough. Have you ever been in Nate's shoes where you've injured someone?
No, I've never hurt anybody aside, I think, at Cage of Death, for example. We called a spot with Mitch Vallon and I, and he said he wanted to do this thing where I hit him with a chair, and he's not going to protect himself. And I was like, "Are you sure?"
Wow.
And I'm like, I can kind of swing this thing. And he's like, no, it's fine. I want you to keep hitting me. I'm not going to sell it. Hit me again. And I'm like, all right, I've never done that. And he's like, no, it's fine. I have a really hard head. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's harder than a chair. And then and I did it, and I kind of, like after the first one, and he's just fine. I was like, uh-oh. And then I hit him like even harder the second time. And, and then I did the swing for the fences, which was not as hard. But then after the match, he comes in, he's like, I think you have a concussion. And I was like, well, no, you're fine. I saw you out there.
Oh man. Now, kid, at first glance, someone who sees you and maybe is not someone who may be new to wrestling may see you as like just a pretty boy, maybe like a gimmick kind of wrestler, but you have this hardcore side of you. Why death matches? Why did you want to get into this field of wrestling?
I was trying to get over. I was in CZW for so long that, and I just thought Kid Osbourne it was just getting stale, what I wanted and who, I thought I was. I might not be that person. How do I connect with people? How do I get in their minds? Like when they think of CZW, when they think of deathmatch wrestling, like how could I stick, or just wrestling in general, how can I stick out? And, I begged DJ Hyde to put me in Tournament of Death, and he finally did. He gave me a match in there with Dan O'Hare, George Gatton, and Vinny Lloyd. I think we did a really good job. For my first death match, I wanted to do as much and get everything I could, out of everything. I think we did really well. And then later on, Devin Moore actually wound up getting hurt, and this was 2017. He wound up getting hurt, and I actually just I just stepped in and I took his spot in the beginning of a match, and the amount of praise I got, which was, I didn't expect any of that. But it kind of drove me more to want to keep doing it. And I actually, the more death matches I had, the more I kind of liked it. And I finally understood what I was told by a few people, that it kind of gets addictive. And and I certainly enjoy it. But I mean, I also, I like being that, the hybrid, where I can do everything. I like talking on the mic. I like wrestling regular matches. I like stipulations. It was just something I can add into my, my list of whatever Kid Osbourne is. And that was all it was supposed to be. It was just something different to get a different audience. And it worked so far, but it also helped me with everything else outside of wrestling. I got more comfortable doing pretty much anything. I pretty much saw doing a death match as, if I can do a death match and bleed, the way that I have, then I can do absolutely anything. And I can't understand how there are people that are afraid to talk on the mic. Mm-hmm. And but they can get stabbed in the head with skewer and soda. So it blows my damn mind.
Now with death matches, you've gotten a lot more comfortable with it. I remember seeing you at a Brooklyn bar with Casanova Valentine. You kind of own that space, and then you were a little bit of a hybrid, because there was a story you guys were telling, especially with DJ in there, and when you came in, things were just really exciting. You could feel it in the crowd. Do you have a weapon of choice, and is there anything that you're looking forward to doing in a death match?
I had a couple. The weapon of choice that I had, I really liked. I used it a couple times, just until recently, and I'll get to that in a second, was the drill. That was my favorite. I thought it gets the best reaction.
Very gruesome. I've seen it plenty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
But the reason why I think it might be changing is because I sort of bucked up, and I just wrestled Slack a week ago at H2O, and that match, I rewatched it, and I put his signature thing is that plastic bag. Mm-hmm. So I decided to have my own plastic bag, and I took it out when I was in control, and I did the whole choke thing with it, suffocating him thing with it. And then at the same time, I grabbed my drill and I started drilling his head, and I just happened to let my hair get in the way, and it caught it. And oh man, did I fuck myself over. And,
really? Fuck.
And I had a hard time getting it out and getting it off, and I wound up having to rip a lot of hair out. And it was just I'm like, nope, never again. I haven't done with that shit. And I was like, I found a new weapon,
When you're walking around just like regular life, are you just like looking, could that be a weapon? Could that be a weapon? Could that be a weapon?
I'll be honest with you. I do think of things like that. I guess it goes, oh, what would make the loudest sound, and then also incapacitate my opponent. Let him go out in fashion with like a big ooh from the crowd. I can tell you the things I hate the most, which are probably the things that I'll use on others more, and that would probably be like barbed wire. I hate barbed wire because there's no adrenaline no amount of adrenaline in the world that can prepare me for that shit, because especially my hair gets stuck in it, or it just pokes me right in the back. There's nothing I just can't. I feel everything. It brings me right back to reality. The one thing I always wanted to use or have in a match was that exploding bat, or like a exploding match. Like, I mean, if I ever had the opportunity to go to Japan, and do something like that, like that would be like one of my, that would be like a big check mark off my bucket list of wrestling.
Well, while we're talking about the bucket list, Japan's one of them. What other short-term things that you want to check off your bucket list?
The short-term thing, I think we all dream, or at least at one point, a lot of us always dreamt to just, want to be in WWE. And like now in independent wrestling, I feel like there's steps now. Whether you have like a name, and already you have a name in wrestling, or you start doing crazy shit, or something catches the eye of the majority of wrestling fans. It's just to get that contract, whether it be like a short-term contract, just something that I can say that I earned. Was never given to me, but something I could say I earned, which would be like a contract, whether like any an offer to like go to like an MLW or Impact or something, and it would just be one of those steps that I know that I'm doing everything I'm going in the right direction.
It's funny you mentioned contracts, because I feel that with AEW now getting people to get signed by that company and putting out contracts, I feel like people are using that now as a storyline, to be honest with you. Like, oh, this person signed with MLW, this person signed with this other promotion. So at what point is it really important?
Well, I think, I'm not sure with the storyline aspect of it. I mean, I think people get pretty psyched about the idea, like, hey, like, there's a company that wants me to be exclusive, or they want me exclusive for these dates, and they're willing to pay this amount of money for me because that's how important I am. And then whether that makes somebody, more egotistical, or if they are more thankful for it is, irrelevant. But I think that what a lot of people do in terms of like now, I think there's a lot more money in wrestling than there ever was. WWE, I know they have to fork out a lot more to all their talent because there's so many more options for them. AEW, with the financial backing that they have, and then anything below that, like with Impact as well, it's like wrestlers now have leverage over, people that can dictate what they're going to pay you.
Yeah.
So somebody like David Starr is a perfect example. I mean, he's kind of running with it. It's almost part of his gimmick. He's independent, and it's obvious that a lot of wrestling companies want him exclusively. I mean, I wouldn't blame them, but I'm sure for him, he's taken the realism of it. Now he doesn't want to be contractually obligated to wrestle for anybody, but I think it's just simply leverage for every wrestler to get as much money as they can, because ultimately wrestling is a business, and it's not always just dressing up and fake fighting.
Now, you haven't been exclusive to CZW, but you have spent a large part of your career in CZW.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your evolution first, because when you first started to where you are now, it's like looking at two completely different people. Did you pay a lot of attention to the small changes and the small evolutions into who you became now, or did it just like gradually happen naturally?
It gradually happened naturally, but at the same time, there were some steps that were larger steps than others. When I first started, it was, I didn't even ever have a choice of what I could do. I was always just told, like, you're too small, you can't do this to anybody, so you're just going to be taking an ass whipping all the time. And it just becomes, that yes, sir, no, sir, like, my ears are open, my mouth's shut. That's how wrestling was even just a decade ago. when I just started training. And now it's, guys come in and they look like Stick Stickly, and next thing you know, they're body slamming somebody like Jeff Cannonball like it's nothing, but
Yeah.
it's just another move, and they don't build to it. For me, I was always into the stories of wrestling and not into the moves and spots. Like, I thought the emotion on my face told a better story, because at the end of the day, I was only told that I was allowed to sell. So if I have to listen to whoever's, the vet in the ring, then, and they're going to tell the story that they want with, and I'm not allowed to, object or suggest anything, then I'm just going to tell my own story with my face, get a sympathy story, because I'm not allowed to be a bad guy, even though I'm sure most of the friends I've made in wrestling would say that you're an asshole and a heel in real life, and I have no idea how you can get people to like you. But so I went with it until I started gaining more and more confidence. And when I would just get, the more and more comments I had, the more opportunities I had. And it took so long because I think I'm such a late bloomer. And I also second-guessed myself for the majority of my career. And honestly, it really took wanting to do a death match for me to finally open up, about who I am and what my character is. And instead of, just letting somebody, dictate who Kid Osbourne is, I'm now telling, anybody that wants me, like, this is who I am, this is my quote unquote character, but this is me, and I don't hold back. So like, that's why it's more real and it's more believable, is because there's not much that's fake about it. Obviously, it's me driven, to the highest temperature, but it's still me. 100%, and that's why I think I've evolved to who I am now. Whether somebody wants to say I'm like a Shawn Michaels wannabe because I have long hair and I'm like somewhat okay looking, or they, or what. But at the end of the day, I'm just me, and that's probably what I think is better than being like this never say die Kid Osbourne, who's a good guy. But like, when you're doing that stupid character in front of a crowd in South Philly at the ECW arena, they don't give a shit about me being an underdog. They want to see that underdog get squashed, and they want to see me get hurt, because that's the kind of fans they are, and that's the fans that I grew up with. So instead of being this, trying to get them on my side and figuring it out, I just call them out on who they are, which I have been pretty vocal about it. They're just belligerent fatties who just like blood, and they don't care about anything except somebody getting hurt. And that's just the guy I evolved a character with, who now has not a feud with any in particular wrestler or promotions, but the fans.
So is that a shoot? Like, do you really think like the fans of CZW or the fans of deathmatch wrestling, they just want to see you guys get hurt?
I'll tell you what it is. It's not that they want anybody to get ever seriously hurt, but it's like it's gotten to that point where they now go, I've seen a no-rope barbed wire light tube death match.
Uh-huh.
I've seen it like 100 times. It's like, what are you going to do to make it, to step up? And then you just go, oh, okay. Yeah. This time we're just going to use guns, I don't know, and you get to that level. So I thought, in my head, I go, well, it's not what it's about. It's not about, what I do in that ring or what moves or spots I take. It's about how do I get under these people's skin so that they want to watch somebody beat me up. I just changed it around. Like, the whole thing I did with Schlack is I didn't call Schlack out. I mean, I did sort of. What I really did was I called out his cult-like following. All those fans that love him to death, and that he can do no wrong. And then I just go, well, why don't I just, I know, I can say anything I want, and he knows exactly what I'm doing. And I'll talk about, him being, he's a reckless dude, but he's safe, but he looks really reckless.
Yeah.
And I can just say, I can, you guys just support this guy because he has tattoos on his face, he takes steroids, and then and you just somehow relate to that, or whatever it is I say. And they don't like the fact that I'm not just insulting their favorite guy, I'm insulting them. And when I insult them, then they're going to back that person up tenfold, and then they're going to hate my guts. And then I created a story out of a one-off match in H2O, and I was like, this is an opportunity with a guy who has a great following, and I want to I want that kind of a following, or I want that kind of notoriety or whatever, and I want to get noticed. So how do I do that? And I'm going to attack his fans because they're so loyal to him. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was unfathomable how loyal these fans are. It was almost to that level of Nick Gage, which I don't know if anybody can get to that level. But I looked at that and I attacked it. I created a story, and then at the end of it, our blow off match, Tremont raffled off tickets for fans to get an opportunity to be lumberjacks and whip
cool.
me, right?
That's cool.
And at the end of it, I don't know, he could have made I think he made it was something in between like $500 to $1,000 on raffle tickets. And guess what? Slack got thrown out of that ring too, and they didn't touch him.
Really?
Whatever that amount of money was so that they could hit me. So that's telling me that I drove those fans to get up and hate me so much and get under their skin so much that they had to pay X amount of money for an opportunity to legally hit me. And I would take that kind of beating anytime at any promotion, just because now, like, what they don't realize is that as much as they're getting that pleasure of trying to hit Kid Osbourne, I'm getting that pleasure knowing that money that you spent is because I got under your skin off of a character. You think that wrestling is like real or fake, or like, this part's real, this part's fake. And it's like, well, right now, you hating me is 100% fucking real, because you're willing to not only spend the ticket money, but also spend $20 to $30 on raffle tickets to potentially beat the shit out of me if I go outside that ring. So that's my championship belt when I go to a show. So
yeah, no, that's really cool, man. And I was talking to someone else recently this week about, there's so much independent wrestling going on. How do you steer to the right promotion, or how do you get behind certain guys? And one of the things you're doing really well is you're putting those promos out there on all social media, and people are starting to follow that and buy into it, and then be like, oh, I wonder where this is going to go. When I saw you for Murder Mania, you filmed a little something with the Boulevard Bullies. You filmed something with Casanova, and it was like, you're building to that match. Every opportunity, every day that gets closer to that, I feel like the talent, the wrestlers have an opportunity to do something like you're doing. Put out a video, say something, because it's what happens between those matches that you guys have full creative freedom, and not many people take advantage of that, and you do, which is fucking awesome.
I think that what it is there is so much more opportunity than just getting booked for a show, or like hitting up a promoter and saying, hey, I'm available this date, and then they just put that little poster out with your picture on it, and you think that that's going to sell. People don't give a shit about Kid Osbourne. They don't care about the picture that's there, like he's going to be there. I don't personally think I'm on that level for the most part, but how do I get people to want to go and want to know who the hell I am? So my way, was insulting, and getting under their skin, what do they like and what don't I like? And why don't I just be vocal about it? Because at the end of the day, they're pretty vocal with me. So that's just the route I take it. And I also think that with promos, it's a lot like how wrestling is now with gifts. Like, people really don't remember. Like, there are very good matches out there.
Yep.
And there might be people that only saw that match once live and they loved it, and then they just saw the gift on Twitter, and that's all they remember. And that's all they really cared about was that one spot. That 1 5-second gift that you're looking at, I look at that and I go, well, it's the same as with a promo. But there are people that do these, like, long 2-minute promos. Nobody gives a shit about that. Like, people's attention spans are terrible. Like, I think with a podcast, people are in the car and they're listening to it, so it's completely different. Yeah, they might zone in and out at parts, but like, ultimately they're going to hear one thing and then they're going to throw it back in.
Yeah.
With a promo on YouTube, and then somebody's on their phone, and like, if they're looking at it at work, or they're like taking a shit, I don't know, and they're looking at it. 2 minutes in, they're not paying attention. They don't even have it on anymore. They're checking their Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all that, like, right in between that time before they would ever want to wait until the end. So I think that a nice 30 seconds or 15 seconds of something funny that I do continuously. Like, so I did a thing. It was with like Slack. I was doing a promo. I did a lot of experimenting with Slack.
Okay.
And doing all that. So what I thought was, well, why don't I do something where I've already beat him once, so this is the blow-off match, so why don't I never refer to him as I don't refer to him. I just refer to him as the hybrid champion. And, and that's who I'm wrestling in this, lumberjack match, or this lumberjack death match thing. So that I just kept referring to him, and then I would always have somebody just go, "Oh, don't you mean Slack?" I shut the camera off and I cut it off. It's just so like people see the annoyance of when I hear his name, so that when the match happens and people are screaming Slack, they can noticeably see it's bothering me. And I just keep posting promos like that, and 15-second promos there, Facebook Live here, and then do this there, and I never refer to his name. People are just now, and it was in a short amount of time, but I noticed that people are starting to, they were really involved to where they want you to just say the fucking name. It's almost like teasing a girl or something like that, and just making her want it more.
Yeah.
And that was
It's
just
like
it.
the small little things.
It's no different. It's no different than foreplay. Is wrestling promos.
Well,
and
let's just put that as a quote out there by Kid Osbourne. Wrestling promo is like foreplay.
Yeah,
that's it.
There's no difference.
But you mentioned if people were tuning out, this is a time where we want to really tune it in, and we're going to give you the opportunity to fill me in on something that I thought was a work. You leaving CZW, what happened?
Well, it wasn't necessarily the direction I think we all see CZW is in now, but it was what I've dealt with for so long. How we were talking about the evolution of me, and how I was like some dweeb skinny kid, and now I'm just some dweeb skinny man. And I finally built up enough confidence to realize that I wasn't really getting appreciated. And it took me a very long time because my own, maybe I am not good enough, because it was really the one company that I wanted to be a star in, and I just wanted an opportunity to do it, and that was it. And it would just seem like, it was like I would get praise for doing something, and then all of a sudden they would just kill it, and they would seem to do that with me all the time. Whether I was just being this jobber to make other people look good, or at the end of it when I was, the voice of CZW, but, they would have me on a show and then they wouldn't even have me go out there. And I would just go, what the fuck did I do wrong? I'm pretty sure I get heat. I'm pretty sure I'm doing what you want. So, like I'm cutting promos. I'm doing all this stuff that, that's not paid because I want to be a star here, but they're too involved with, whoever it is that they care about. And, it can go either way, where they could say they just didn't see me as a star or anything, or whatever. But I just finally saw that it wasn't working out in my favor. I had a lot of, I don't want to name the names, but I had some people in my ear to really give me good guidance, and kind of tell me like, it's actually holding you back, because when people see you as like a CZW guy, it's not a real positive thing anymore. And they haven't given you a lot of opportunity. You've been here for almost a decade, and it's just not panning out the way that it should for you, because of the talent that you are. But because I'm being stubborn and I'm staying here, it's only hindering me. So I ended up just reaching out to BJ and just thanking him for everything, but respectfully just leaving. And I posted on my Instagram a picture of me when I was first starting, and along with a lot of other pictures, and talked about how without CZW I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't have the confidence I have. But it's upsetting, but it doesn't seem like there's much here for me. So I ended up leaving because of it. People did think it was a work, but no, it wasn't. And it was just, there was one final straw that I, when I was there, and it just really turned me off. And I was like, I'm obviously not appreciated, and if I leave or not, it doesn't really matter. But at the end of it, I mean, True Colors show, and they haven't they haven't, been negative towards me. However, I did notice that they unfollowed me on a lot of their social media. So I was like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Really?
Yeah, so I just unfollowed him back.
Now, you mentioned that you approached DJ and told him, all right, this is not for me anymore. Did you voice your frustrations about everything that was going on along the way before you made your decision to leave?
What had happened was, obviously it was a buildup from just years of never being used but always showing up, showing, that I'm here for this company, and I bleed black, yellow, whatever, and then just not getting appreciated because they cared more about who was ever the flavor of the month or somebody that they, saw as some potential Ric Flair from years from now or some shit like that. But I had came up with a character, and then they kind of molded one thing along with it. But then while you're doing, you're going to every show and then you're cutting every promo, you're kind of noticing like a trend of how nothing's really happening. And you don't really have any creative control, but it doesn't seem like anybody that's doing any creative cares. And and they're I don't know what would be on their mind about whatever they're doing in shows, but it just wasn't panning out. And I just started listening and seeing, the trend of how, they're losing more and more people. They're just not connecting anymore. And it seems like they're putting a lot of blame on other people and not themselves. So it's like it's kind of imploding in itself from what I see. And now not being in it, and right before I would just kind of just block them out. Like I didn't block them, but I'm just unfollowing it and trying to just get away from it. I just kind of, before that I started noticing that it just really wasn't what I liked anymore. It wasn't what I actually loved about CZW and why I was there.
Yeah, you came in as a fan.
That I could be a star.
Yeah. You were that fan early on who knew what that CZW was, and that's why you wanted to be part of it. What was that final straw for you?
I was asked to be at a show, the last show I was at, which was the Trifecta.
Right.
I asked, I don't want to say who, but for a lot of people listening probably know what I was doing. I was like, what am I doing today? Because it's like you're keeping it a secret. Am I cutting a promo? Do you need promos? Do I need to wear a suit? Like, am I going out there? Like, get prepared for it. And I was pretty much told, no, just like hang out. I don't want to say anything. And I'm like, why? Like, why are you? What am I gonna like tweet about it? Like, I don't understand why you're not telling me. And I ended up not being on the show at all in no fashion, no form or fashion. And then at the end, they did something with Hog, House of Glory.
Yep. And
I had to do some run-in thing where I, like, oh, this is real, and it would be a cool concept, I guess, but it didn't really, it was whatever, where it had like, the 150, 200 people there kind of questioning whether or not it was real or not. And that was it. And I was like, that's what I came here for? Like, you had an entire show. I could have gotten like heat. I could have went out there and did something with The Office, with Connor, and I would make a suggestion here and make a suggestion there, and nothing happened. And I was like, this is everything that I was told. And it just like it was all those things at once. And I was like, I don't think they really care about Kid Osbourne. And hopefully I can see if, let's take the risk and see, what do I have to lose?
What do you think it's in the future for CZW? Because a lot of people do express what you've been expressing, the frustration of, being with the company early on and knowing, how much praise it got, how much talent that it created, and how much special moments they have created. But now that's not what it is. And, I've talked to DJ, I've talked to a lot of other people, in the mix, and I could say I was hopeful, and it's promising, hopefully, that, the talent that they're bringing in, hopefully, rebuilds that. But we haven't seen that. It's still in that phase, that rebuilding, and it's been a year now since I had that conversation.
I mean, and since that conversation, it's been over a year since then.
Yeah.
I remember hearing something like somebody bought it or he sold a lot of the company or something like that, but I don't know who does like any of the business in that. I don't really know what DJ does in terms of storylines or what he says or really what he does anymore. I love DJ to death. I wouldn't be the wrestler, I am and care as much about like psychology and storytelling, without him. But I just don't see what are you rebuilding to? Like, what's your end goal? Because it feels like anytime I would ever ask, it's like you don't trust me enough to tell me. Like what am I going to do? Tell like GCW? Are they going to steal your idea because they seem to be doing pretty fucking well on their own? And all I would ever hear is like, oh yeah, but it's like a fad because they're just doing these dream match things. I'm like, there's never ending dream matches, and independent wrestling gives that to them. The only thing that I think GCW doesn't, I don't know if they do it necessarily, is that they have like long storylines, and I don't really know. I mean, that's not really their thing, and it's not their niche, and they don't need to do it because they're really fucking good at what they're doing. But it always seemed to be like the last 2 years, 3 years or whatever, since I'd say since the first spring break, is that blaming GCW.
Yeah.
And that seemed to always be the thing. And that was while I was there, and I didn't, telling wrestler. It started with telling wrestlers, you can't wrestle there because of X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And it's just like, wow. I mean, why would you stop why would you stop somebody from wrestling there? But then there would be certain people that would get more heat than others. I remember apparently I got punished for wrestling in a scramble there like a couple years ago. And it's like what the fuck for? Like why? What did I do? But somebody else can? Get the fuck out of here! You're gonna tell me if David Starr went over there and you gave him the title because he agreed to be at every single one of your dates, that when he went to GCW, that you would take it from him? Like, get out of here. Like, come on.
Yeah, so there's like a double standard. They're choosing their favorites.
Yeah.
Now this is just the perspective of the fan, and just trying to understand also the success of GCW. It feels like, they're one of the most successful wrestling promotions in our area, if not probably the whole United States at this point, because they're competing at a different level. But I think also CZW created that void that GCW picked up. It's been a little bit now. Did you feel it's the right decision? Do you have more opportunities now? Is the future bright for Kid Osbourne?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I've gotten so many different messages from people that are more supportive of it, and then people asking, why. Of course, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. It just wasn't for me.
Right.
It just took me a very long time to realize it. But I definitely a lot more opportunity. Especially from those that had told me to do it in the first place. It was honestly kind of holding me back because it made me look like, I was, I guess, the way they put it was, you're riding, something on its like last legs, and then it's going to look like I'm the reason,
Yeah, I can see that.
It has been a lot more. I mean, there's never a weekend in which I don't have anything, any show. I now don't have a promotion that I go to where I'm like constantly questioning, like, who am I? What am I doing? Or whatever, whereas like now after leaving, I'm so like certain with everything that I'm doing and who I am that I don't worry about it. And there's nobody that's like kind of above me anymore or act like they're above me. And I don't mean that like as they treat me like shit, like, shit in person or anything like that. It was almost like I'm still that green wrestler that tried out, at the 2300 arena every time I go to their show. But once that started not feeling like that anymore, like that excitement, then it just became a chore, and then it became a job. And that's when I really want to just call it work, is because at the end of it, it's, I'm just doing this because this is what I do every second Saturday of the month. And I think when it gets to like that, it's like that, it's time to stop. It's like when you start hating your 9-to-5 job, and it starts stressing you out and affecting how you are everywhere else. It's time to leave that job or find a new one, because it's taken over your entire livelihood. And I try to just rid myself of any stress and anxiety that something gives me, and that's what it was ultimately giving me. But it took a lot of people to finally get that through my head.
Well, I feel like you got a whole new lease on life, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
With so many promotions out there now, what are some of the promotions you haven't worked for that you would love to be part of in 2019?
My goal, at least by the end of the year, is I would love to get an opportunity at MLW. And I actually really like watching their shows a lot. I like how they bring Mansour in. I kind of miss hanging out with my buddy Ace Austin, and I know he's at Impact a lot, but I miss working with him. And him and I used to have wine nights at my apartment in Philly.
Oh,
so watch old Nitro or something like that, and he'd stay over because he would have whatever show the next time or the next day. But I that's what I want is ultimately I want to have fun. And opportunity and money is, I think it's secondary. It's very important. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I care about my mental health and my physical health. I suppose. I mean, you wouldn't know it for the dumb shit I do, but my mental health, and I want to do more out in the Midwest. I want to go back to Rockstar, but honestly, just start traveling more. I want to do even just Hollywood. Peter Avalon's they're a big star there, and I would like to go to do Beyond and on a Wednesday in Massachusetts, and then Joey Ryan would have me do his bar wrestling. I just want to be able to travel and do those things. And one of the things that you talked about is those no ring matches. I got to do them for the first time this past year, and I got to go to New Orleans for it. I got to I was in Orlando a couple months ago, and I definitely want to do that more often with Casanova, he's really doing a good job.
Absolutely.
With himself doing that. But it kind of reminded me of the camaraderie of doing backyard wrestling with all your friends, and not having a real worry.
Well, now all your friends have grown up and we could drink.
Yeah.
So we want to do it at a bar and not in a backyard.
Yep. All we did was just become alcoholics and we did it at a bar, and that's it,
Yeah. Man, the statement we say at the beginning of the show that wrestling brings us together, it's no more true than it is right now. Thank you so much for joining us on A Shot of Wrestling, brother. Before I let you go, is there any misconceptions or anything that you want to set the record straight now for anybody listening?
It's that I don't hate CZW. I certainly don't want it to fail, and I would love for it to be a place for me to, always want to go back to. I want them to want me to regret leaving.
Yeah.
Because it's not always about me. I'm still always a fan. And that's the first independent wrestling I ever saw. And I hope that it stays around and it, gets back up on its feet and, it becomes what I always loved about it. That's just the one thing I want to get across. If anybody's listening to this still, listening to me rant on about it, but it's just that. And in wrestling, I think I don't want anybody to actually think that I hate fans either, because I certainly don't.
And I completely understand the thing about CZW. It's a part of your history and who you've become also, and this journey that you're on. If we wanted to continue following your journey, where could we hit you up on your social medias?
It's at Ken Osbourne, KITOSBOURNE, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and I do have a YouTube page under the same thing. which I'm going to start adding more. I was actually motivated to do it more because of Maria Manning and how much I see hers. Yeah, so that's where you can find me. But I'm always on Insta. I always post shit on Instagram, and I do Facebook Live fairly often. And you know what? I mean, probably tonight I'll probably drink a bottle of wine and then start, talking out of my ass later today. So feel free to join me, if you're around.
Hey, sounds good, brother. But before I let you go, you got to stay with us to the end of the episode because we got last call, all right?
Oh, yeah. I'm actually looking forward to this. Hey, this is Kid Osbourne. If you want more shots at Kid, then stay tuned at the end of the episode for last call.
Thank you, Kid Osbourne, for joining us on A Shot of Wrestling, the interviews. Now, this interview will actually be featured on an episode of A Shot of Wrestling podcast, episode 164, hosted by Michael J. Putty and Mark Schwann. They will also be going over all the news and rumors that affected the wrestling universe. Did I say universe? Universe during this past week in wrestling. So check them out on B Plus Player Radio, bodyslams.net, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts, and listen, subscribe. If you want to continue to support A Shot of Wrestling, it's really simple. It's free. Make sure you follow us on all forms of social media, and especially make sure you subscribe to us here on YouTube. Like this interview, go back to the other interviews and make sure you share them with everybody who is part of that wrestling community. So thank you so much for joining me. Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I need to announce it's last call at the bar.
Oh. All right, everybody, we have made it to the end of the episode, and it is last call. Kid Osbourne is still here with us. That's Kit like the car and Osbourne like Ozzy.
Yeah, just like Ozzy, spelled the same way. He's like my dad.
Gotcha.
I never met him, just like, my real dad, but.
Maybe we need to get Maury on this episode and get some kind of paternity test. But listen, this is how it goes. It's rapid fire question. The first thing that comes out of your mind is the first thing you should answer. Are you ready?
Okay. Oh, I'm ready.
All right. Who is your dream opponent?
Vince McMahon.
Which do you prefer, beer or shots?
Shots.
What is the stupidest thing you've ever done while under the influence?
Deathmatch wrestling.
What is the best feature on a woman?
The ass.
I'm an ass man too.
I mean, I'm sorry, I meant to say eyes.
Oh,
I mean, their personality.
Who is your celebrity crush?
It used to be Kate Winslet. Now, now she's older, but
I could fuss with Kate Winslet.
Kate Winslet in 97, when.
Fuck that. I want her now. A little bit more curves,
a
little more experience.
I'm sure
it's like wine.
Oh, yeah.
She's matured. Have you ever hooked up with anybody in the business?
Yes.
Other than wrestling, what is your favorite sport?
Baseball.
Name a movie that has moved you into tears.
It's going to be lame, but Toy Story 3.
Really?
Oh my God! Yeah, that scene where they all thought it was over, and I'm like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. There's no way they're gonna end it, and it was so long, and I'm just like, no, you can't do it. You can't do this to me. It was real.
And finally, what is your favorite WrestleMania?
WrestleMania 17.
All right, Kit. Well, you've survived last call. Now, we know now that you've hooked up with someone in the business. We're going to go off air. We're going to discuss a little bit more about that. Maybe bring that back up in Kid Osbourne and A Shot of Wrestling Part 2. How about that?
I would love that. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, thanks for joining us, brother.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I had an absolute blast.
Hey, baby, I hear the bell ringing, hip tosses and body slams. Oh my. And maybe you seem a bit confused, yeah baby, but I got you pinned. Ha 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 ha. But I don't know what to do when I see them with that golden case. They're cashing it in. authority all in my face. What is a man to do? Good night, everybody.